Welcome to New Creations for Christ. In today's testimony, I'm going to share a story about my aunt and how she was considering an abortion. Back when I was 14 years old, so let's call it 1968, give or take, my Aunt Agnes, who I shared with you in an earlier testimony, her and my Uncle Andy were taking me to Italy to meet my grandfather, who I've never met. I've met my grandmother. She's been over to the States when I was a kid, but I never met my grandfather. And a month before I actually got to go, he passed away, but God love them, they still took me to visit and visit my other family members and just spend time with them. I was blessed enough to spend 3 months there in this little town my mom and dad grew up in Italy. It was beautiful. And I just got to experience the whole thing, being in the same house my mom grew up in, being with my aunts and my uncles, my cousins who I never met. Now, one day we were all in the kitchen, my two aunts, my Aunt Agnes and my other aunt. They're in the kitchen talking, and I could hear them. And my other aunt was saying, "Agnes, I'm pregnant and I'm considering an abortion." Now her youngest was 14, her son was my age, and her oldest daughter was 17, the same age as my sister. And she thought, she can't do this all over again. There's no way she could just, bring another child into this world, and they were struggling, and she just had so many reasons why she couldn't have this baby. And my Aunt Agnes just looked at her and said, "Don't worry, I'll adopt this baby. Just go ahead with the pregnancy and I'll come back. When you deliver the baby, I'll adopt it, take it back to the U.S. and no one will have to know." And I remember my aunt saying, "You would do that for me?" And she goes, "Sure, I love you. It'll be okay." Now, the pregnancy goes on. She decides not to have the abortion. And she has the baby. It's a little girl. And my aunt calls her and says, "Okay, just like I promised, I'm on the next flight to come get the baby and I'll bring her back here. You don't have to worry." My aunt in Italy tells her with tears of joy, she says, "Agnes, don't come. I can't give up this baby. I'm going to keep her." My Aunt Agnes always knew in her heart, mind, and soul that my aunt would never give up that child or abort her. She just needed a little encouragement, support, and love. And my aunt surely gave her that. Now let's fast forward. This is the late 60s, like 68. Now 2005, my middle son and I go back to Europe. I'm taking him on a trip as a gift. And the last week of this journey, we're spending the week in Italy with my family in the same house that my mom grew up in. And we're there and we're having such a great time with my aunt and uncle who lived right next door to my grandmother's house. I mean, it's almost connected. And we had such a great time with them, great food, laughs, good wine. And 2 weeks after I leave, now my uncle's my mom's oldest brother. 2 weeks after I leave, my uncle drops dead. Now here my aunt back in Italy, she lost her best friend, her husband, the love of her life. Who took her in? The baby that she was going to abort. And my aunt is still living with that daughter today in her late 80s. The message here, my brothers and sisters, is that every life has a purpose. We may not understand at the time we're faced with the decisions we have to make and we're overwhelmed with possible complications or struggles. But know God has a plan. I've learned to trust it because it always turns out better than we ever thought of, no matter how crazy it is. no matter how bad it seems. All I'm asking you, trust it. Trust it. And who knows what these children will provide, what these lives will give, not just in the joy to the parents and the family members, but what else they'll bring to society and to countries. You know, is it going to be research, science, medical findings? Who knows, but give life a chance is all I'm asking. Trust in God. He will not abandon you. He will not do harm to you, for He loves each and every one of us. Peace.
Psalm 139:13-14. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. If you're pregnant and considering an abortion and wondering what you should do, there is no denying that this is a really difficult decision. Please know that your child was not conceived by chance. Your child was conceived because God created that child in His image with purpose and placed him or her in your womb for God's glory and your joy. This child is a gift. If you're considering an abortion, or if you've had an abortion and you're looking for some support, please check out optionline.org. You are not alone.